cloud and things like that are centers of your business.
So those are the technology plays, yes. Technology plays, we expect security to be a big play. So we've got about 5,000 consultants there, only growing. Then mobility, analytics, and cloud. These are the four technology spaces that we are betting on. And they're all kind of interrelated. Security on mobile devices, analytics, you're tapping into company databases, so you will on your mobile device if somebody is hacking what's happening there. They are all interrelated too, but these are the four technologies that we expect a lot of money to come from.
Excuse me, we are over time now, so we'll take a few more questions.
I have one question. When you talk about making inroads or seeing the future moving into the cloud and those kind of technology-based areas in the future, unlike in previous application or application services, support services, where a person could pick up a manual and read those kind of things, these are very infrastructure or training heavy kind of areas to grow in. Do you concur with that, or do you still think that it's something that someone can easily be trained on? Because at the end, companies, especially from an outsourcing point of view, would still be working in the services area.
Right. One is the infrastructure itself. So the cloud infrastructure although all companies claim to have their own cloud, Wipro claims to have its own cloud, TCS has its own cloud. But the expectation is that there will be few clouds, the Google cloud and the IBM cloud and the Microsoft cloud will be the clouds that will be there to stay, whether it is a public cloud or a private cloud. So clearly, but everybody has to do what they are doing, so that's fine. The other dynamic that you see in the IT world is technology is rapidly changing. But the other thing that is also happening simultaneously is the commoditization of technology is also happening fairly rapidly. No matter how quickly technologies come in, people come to grips with those technologies rather rapidly. So that's a contradictory force that is there. Although things change fairly quickly, but I think there's so much of outsourcing that has happened across the globe that there is a lot of incentives for the service providers to quickly commoditize and come to speed on it, because they need to build large armies, and Accenture needs to build a large army around anything that is new. So does IBM, so does Wipro, so does TCS. So there is enough of, what should I say, training, knowledge management, framework creation that happens at a rapid pace, a pace rapid enough to keep pace with the technology changes. Does that kind of answer your question? So that's another mega trend, if one may say, if there is a trend. I see both these things happen simultaneously.
About the headwinds that as you mentioned, that the economy not so young. So how are you kind of prepared for handling those headwinds that the budget recession people are talking about and whatnot? So Q3, Q4, Q1 was good, Q2 is slow. I'm not sure how Q2 is going to be. How are you prepared to help your customers better or provide better services or better reach? How is Wipro prepared?
There are two levels of preparation that need to be done. Being in the services business, you've got to factor in all these upturns and downturns, because if you're not able to react rapidly to these situations, you start bleeding money. Because at the end of the day, you are in the people's business, and if you are not able to scale up and down, or you're not able to predict and make alterations, you kind of suffer. So one is the internal, scaling up and scaling down. The second is, what do we do about our customers? Now the customers which are really tricky are your BFSI customers, then comes your retail customers, then comes your manufacturing, then are the utilities and the healthcare. So we are betting a lot more on the utilities and the healthcare. All guys are trying to get into a bigger chunk of this pie. Because even if healthcare comes down, it's not coming down very significantly. The spends there, the IT spends will continue to grow. And utilities have been fairly archaic in their IT management, so we expect a significant amount of growth. So one is betting on these technologies, so we're betting on these customers and trying to increase your market share out of these verticals. So that's one thing that we're trying to do.
But that's, sorry.
And otherwise, in terms of doing things for your customers, different companies have tried different things. So some people who have done that very successfully during the downturn, where people didn't have budgets, they made significant investments into their customer activities, and they did a number of things at low cost or no cost to the customer. And that brought about great results and great dividends for them, because as soon as the markets picked up, whom do you reward? The guy who was with you in your tough times. But then that is an isolated strategy. I mean, different companies have tried differently. There is no mega trend to say that everybody is doing the same.
But that's just about extending the existing model into other areas. It's not really redefining anything, per se. But it's trying to milk the same cow.
Right.
to the
And
different-
then there is some amount of rapid responses in terms of hiring and not building too much of capacities and doing quick retraining. So all of that companies are trying to do all the time. So even when we hire 10,000 campus grads, we are not making 2-year ahead commitments that you guys shall join us at this time, or 1-year ahead commitments. We kind of say this is an offer which we will always honor, but we don't commit a start date.
Getting the fresh from the college or from fresh graduates, that's there's a kind of consistent supply that we can handle. The challenge is that the mid-management staff, the attrition is high because the salaries are going up and inflation in India. So to retain those kind of talent pool, that's a challenge. So how are we going to manage that? Like if the market slows down here and the cost in India is kind of going up. So
If the market slows down here, then India also, if what they say is if people sneeze here, everybody in India gets a cold. That happens, because then the middle management, their expectation at that time, you see, nobody expects a higher hike. So the salaries kind of for 2 years, 2008 and some part of 2009, we saw fairly same times. People weren't expecting 20-25% hikes every year on year. And the attrition was down to single digits.
My academic mind interprets this question from an intellectual point of view, so let me give a different take on that one. The call center industry, not call center, the medical transcription industry, they were able to use poor quality people using technology, as in 2 people do typing, transcription, the technology matches the two, and an expert comes and fixes the mistake, so to speak. That is like you're using system to put together people who are not adequately prepared for it to do the job. In the IT world or business analyst world, I don't know, there's some layer of IT that can be added to cover the mid-level thing that is lacking using lower-level people that you are. Is that the question you're asking? More like you're stuck with lack of mid-level people. Can you substitute lower-level
that could
people?
be part of strategy, but I'm looking at like more from strategy perspective. That could be one of the solutions.
You are not going to make 5-year experienced people overnight. If there is a shortage of 5
You can do that in India.
Yeah. But in a true sense of the word, if 5 years is where the shortage is, can you use 2-year experienced people to do the job?
Strategy.
That's why I was using
local medical are available at a lower cost. No, not compared to India, but the salaries here are not going up. So school, college, fresh graduates, maybe you can hire that talent and kind of put that talent at the end.
No, that's why I'm using the transcription analogy, because let's say 3 years of recession, people were not there, they moved on to some other industry. Can you create them overnight? Can you mask their inadequacies with some other layer?
And there is a challenge. There is a challenge that happens from time to time. When the dot-com boom and bust happened, companies didn't hire. They didn't hire for 2 years. In 2005, 2006,
Yeah.
all of them had a problem that the project lead and tech lead level of people were missing. And then a huge amount of attrition started because you started robbing Paul with Peter, and there's a whole circular movement of people that took place and salaries went through the roof.
How are the billing rates in the US? Are they gradually increasing? Because the
Rates
Indian
have been
salaries are
actually
also
fairly constant or going down.
going down.
So that's what not increasing.
So it's eating the margin pie from
Giving the
So
transaction.
That is where the Indian companies are being able to hold their margins.
Giving the
It's a
transaction
fairly,
value.
you see, what the American buyers have figured out is get an RFP and get 5 guys, 2 American companies, 3 Indian companies, and get them to fight each other, then reveal each other's rates to each other. Oh, you know, this other guy, they're doing a much better job, they're only at this level. Can you guys match it? So, it's a dog-eat-dog world, it's become fairly commoditized. The
How is
IT
India
service-
managing to maintain the margin if the rates are, billing rates are coming down and the costs are going up? Is it because the productivity is increasing rapidly?
More than the productivity is, there's several things that are happening, I think. One is this annuity business. Indian companies are grabbing more and more of that work. And that work is all in very established economies. And the work itself is established in the organization, client organization. So there are no unknowns there. So to move that work and to have relatively junior guys who are well trained is easy. So the Indian companies have mastered this art of this what I call as a quadrant 1 play. Low intimacy, low complexity. But the volumes are fairly high. So that is where I think they're doing a great job. And we have to figure out that quadrant 4 play, which is high complex and high intimacy. That is really where the battle is. Because with the IBMs and the Accentures have figured out the quadrant 1 play as well as any Indian company, there is no advantage left to just be a quadrant 1 player.
To some extent, the same benefits apply to quadrant 4 because in quadrant 4 you can fix price the whole solution and then your margins are almost opaque to the customer because you're not quoting base.
That's right. So quadrant 4 has all those other advantages, but the biggest advantage quadrant 4 has, that it can feed quadrant 1 play. If you've got both things to offer, if you have the football relationships and the golf relationships, you have the intimacy and also you've got the right people, then you can leverage that to increase your quadrant 1 play. So that is where the threat for the Indian companies is. And that is where the mergers and acquisitions will happen. A merger of quadrant 4 and quadrant 1 play. That merger is the merger that will happen.
Okay, one last question if anybody has last question.
Yeah, I also need to run. One of my friends is there from New Jersey. I got to go meet him. I was supposed to have picked him up, but then he.
Where do you see the nearshoring or demand set that's coming up like in the next 5 years? Or how do you think it will shape up in the next 5 years?
I think rural sourcing, low-cost sourcing from the US will pick up. You will see more movement on those fronts. Because there is a value proposition there, although it's not scalable. That's the problem. But people will figure out models where you don't need to have a 2,000-person center, but if you have 5 of those centers which are within 2 hours of driving distance from Atlanta, and there are enough of those cities here which are low cost, and you figure out a low management overhead model where you're not investing too much on overheads and it's a self-managed team, or you do video conferencing or whatever, telepresence and all that to manage those teams, then you have a winner on hand. So that is the model that maybe we'll also do some experimentation. We definitely want to do it. We're waiting for customers to sign up. That is what we'll do. So we'll have a hub and spoke model and there's a huge cost advantage in the rural centers.
Okay, we'll wrap up. Satish, you have.
Hello, good evening. Can you hear me?
You're holding a mic.
I'm a soft-spoken person, so I had to ask. Distinguished speaker,
Is this? Yeah, now it's fine.
distinguished speaker, fellow alumni, and honorable guests, thank you very much for making time from your busy schedule and attending this event this evening. Thank you very much, Mr. Suraj, for a very enlightening speech on Wipro and the changing landscape of outsourcing. And if you're in the IT industry, it's difficult to escape outsourcing. You're either a customer or you're part of the outsourcing landscape delivering it. So, I mean, there was a lot of question and answer, and there was a very high degree of engagement. So I think it was a really great time and a good speech. I'd like to